Well, it's hard for me to explain something. I'm not the one who said it, right? So,
Yes.
and it has been translated. And I wouldn't say we are in the world.
Yes.
I would say the world is in you. And because the world is in you, you are everywhere in the world. And I wouldn't say, of course, that's true. So you are not made of the world, but the world is made of you. So you are not of the world, made of the world. The world is made of you. You are the substance of the world. So you are in the world. I wouldn't say that. I would say you are apparently in the world, but because if you say you are in the world, there is identification with the body there. You see,
Yes.
so
I,
so it is in
it is.
a religious context. It can be said in which you identify with the body and you say, yes, your body is in the world, but neither the body nor the world, but the body, but you are not of the world. It means the world that didn't create itself. It is made of a different substance. Yeah, I guess that's
Yes, but
it.
anyway, can you explain to me the world is in me?
Oh. There is only one reality. So what I call really I, the real I, is this reality. If there is only one reality, right? The reality of me, which is the real me, has to be this one reality. So there is only one I, one me, one person, and which is the reality of the world. So this real self, our true identity, is the reality of the world. So in a sense, the world is in it, is of it, because the reason we say it is in it, because if we were to say that the world is not in it, it would mean that it is separate from it. In other words, it would mean that the world has a separate existence from it. It would mean that the world exists somehow independently from it, and as a result, this reality would not be the one reality.
Yes.
You see? So if there is only one reality, there is nothing which is not it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If there is only one reality, everything, this reality is the reality of everything. Therefore, there is nothing which is not a manifestation of or an appearance within this reality,
Yes. Okay.
or
And
substance, as Spinoza would have it, substance, reality,
okay.
being.
And I understand better. And it is our personal mind who is imagining that there is a world outside of us, or
Not necessarily.
necessarily.
That, in other words, that's a possibility. there is a possibility that there is no world existing independently from its being perceived. That's one possibility. But
Yes.
another possibility is that the world has some form of existence independently from being perceived. Now, we could ask the question, what form of existence can there be without being perceived? And the problem with this objection is that it is anthropomorphic. In other words, it reduces the possibility of existence to the kind of existence we have access to as human beings. As human beings, the only form of existence we have access to is through perception. So as human beings, we can legitimately ask the question, well, for us as human beings, there seems to be no existence independently from perception. However, even as human beings, there is a form of existence or being which is independent from phenomenal perception, which is awareness itself. The experience of awareness by itself is independent from phenomenal perception through the senses. So even as human beings, we have a mode of existence which is independent from phenomenal perception. And in fact, this mode of existence is what I call being. It's a mode of existence of reality, if you will. But we cannot determine as human beings that there are no form of existence that are not along the lines of human perception. But even if there is, in other words, if the world exists independently from mind-like perception, nevertheless, the reality of this world outside and the reality that perceives it, known as awareness within, have to be the same. Now, if we ask ourselves, what is the reality of awareness? Meaning, if I define awareness as that which truly perceives, what is the reality of that which truly perceives? You see, it's an interesting question, because if we kind of ruminate on it, we will reach the conclusion that the reality of awareness has to be awareness itself. Awareness being defined as a reality who perceives, in other words, as a true perceiver, as the real perceiver.
Yes, but it's not mind. It's not a mind, and it's not matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but going back to your question, ultimately, it doesn't matter whether the world exists without being perceived or not. The only thing that matters is that both world and mind share the same reality.
Okay.
Right? And it is obvious that the world we perceive, and the mind, in which, or which is comprised of the perceptions of the world, that they share the same reality. Because for perception of the world to be real, an interaction is required between the world we perceive and this perception of it we have. For instance,
Yes.
if we perceive a tree, it's because the photons that are emitted by the leaves kind of collide with our retina, right? And generate there all kinds of chemical and electrical reactions. So there is this interaction between the tree which is perceived and the body. In the same way, whatever the mind is, for the perception to be of the tree to be legitimate, there must be an interaction. In other words, the tree which we perceive and the mind, which is comprised of the perception of the tree, have to share the same reality. Otherwise, the perception would be bogus. It would mean there is no tree there, it's just the creation by this reality here of a tree which is like a dream. So for the perception to be real, that which is perceived and that which perceives have to share the same reality. And since I define awareness as the reality that perceives, you see, the tree which is perceived, no matter whether or not it exists independently from mind, is made of this reality, is made of this awareness, you see? It's very important to understand this, that it doesn't matter whether the world exists without being perceived or not. It's a question which cannot be really answered phenomenally. It's a question to which the human mind doesn't have access. And perhaps it's a question which exists only on the level of the human mind because of its limitations. On a different level, this question doesn't arise. It doesn't arise certainly on the level of awareness, since the reality of that which is perceived and the reality that perceives are the same.
And thank you. But can I ask?
Please.
Yes. So when we experience something in the light of awareness, what can we can say? For example, you say, I see a tree. It will be just an experience, and it's from the point of view of the reality, it's okay, it's itself.
Yeah, everything we see is this reality, and that which sees it is the same reality. In other words, there is no division between the observer and the observed.
Yes. It's why we feel sometimes a great intimacy with what we see.
Yes, intimacy, yes, with what we see, yes. The world is very intimate. It is a world, we share the same intimacy with the world as we share with our body.
Yes.
And this is the nature of this intimacy is love.
Yes. Okay.
So love is not a connection between individuals. You see, that's a misunderstanding. Love is simply the experience of our intimacy with everything. In other words, the absence of barriers, the absence of borders, the implicit understanding that there is only one reality.
Okay.
Implicit understanding, I mean, because we don't need to think it. We need to understand it once.
Yes.
And having understood it, it sinks in, so to speak. Of course, we need to understand it again and again and again, many, many times. Every time we understand it, it sinks deeper. So that this implicit knowledge that there is only one reality, which is our reality, kind of deepens over time.
It is why it is the reason that, for example, in satsang, we feel this great
Yes.
intimacy.
Yes. But what is important is what I mean by implicit knowledge. And let me give you an example of implicit knowledge. Is a child believes in Santa Claus.
Yes.
Then he has a first glimpse about the non-existence of Santa Claus. But then he has doubts about his glimpse. And then again, she has another glimpse. Now, there is a moment when she knows Santa Claus doesn't exist. Now, this knowledge that Santa Claus doesn't exist is implicit, meaning she doesn't have to constantly remind herself that Santa Claus doesn't exist, you see? This understanding she has now and is always with her. That's what I call implicit knowledge. As a result of this implicit knowledge that Santa Claus doesn't exist, she's not going to do certain things, such as write a letter to Santa Claus, right? Or, or make sure that place shoes in front of the fireplace so that Santa Claus would put some chocolate or toys in the shoes. That's not necessary, right? Catherine, you're French, right?
Yes.
So you know what I mean with the shoes and the fireplace, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like us, we have to remind the non-existence of the separate
we don't have at some point to remind ourselves that we are the universe, that our reality is universal. It has become so deeply implicit in us that we are free from the separation in the same way as adults, we are free from Santa Claus. You are not worried that Santa Claus is going to get sick next Christmas and because he had caught COVID, and he's not going to be able to bring the toys, or he's going to die. You see, these kind of fears, we don't have them as adults.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.